Okay, welcome back to the second half of the facility design lecture. We ended up talking about environmental factors and what a facility needs to be maintained at for comfortable temperatures, right? So it's between 68 and 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, this is, important to keep the muscles warm and so forth while someone's training. You can't have a facility that's freezing, or also the relative humidity shouldn't exceed 60%, right? So if you have a lot of moisture, a lot of wetness in your facility, not only could it damage your equipment, it could also be very uncomfortable to exercise in, and then you're not going to have some happy people coming to work out. Okay, so when we talk about electrical and mirrors, we're just going to briefly go through this, but the electrical service, the strength and conditioning facility usually requires more outlets than most buildings just because of all of the, the treadmills and the electric equipment that would be there. Some of these outlets may require higher voltage for more powerful equipment, such as stair climbers, ellipticals, and treadmills. For examples, I had when we were designing, or when I was designing the Human Performance Lab, I had to make sure all of the outlets that were in the bod pod area, especially around the metabolic system, handled a very high wattage, high voltage. So that we could have the equipment run properly, right? Because you don't want to keep blowing a fuse, or you don't want to damage the equipment if it cannot take the power. Okay, so mirrors. Mirrors should be placed at least 6 inches from any equipment, right? So should not be super close. So some people, if you see a weight rack that is right up against the mirror, it's got to be at least 6 inches from that weight rack. And a minimum of 20 inches above the floor. That was a question on the CSCS exam, was what are the height requirements should the mirrors be? So these are some random questions that do show up. So we shouldn't have a floor length mirror that goes all the way to the bottom. You should at least have 20 inches of leeway, which is just under 2 feet of wall space, right? This is because if someone drops a weight, something rolls and hits it or so forth, that you're not cracking the mirror, you're not breaking the mirror and, shattering everywhere. It's mainly for safety reasons, right? So you should at least leave about 20 inches to 2 feet above, of space between the floor and the bottom of the mirror. Other considerations, you got to think about things like drinking fountain should be located away from the training area, shouldn't be like right in the middle. Having a shower located somewhere in the building helps to maintain hygiene, prevent the spread of infections and disease. That is a very important point to make, especially during the time we are in right now. But just in general, different sweat, people are not wiping down the equipment, you're not showering, there's not proper hygiene. Things like MRSA can spread very, very easily. That usually happens a lot in locker rooms and so forth when people don't have proper hygiene. So that is very important for your facility too, because you would not want to be responsible for the one that is spreading a possible skin disease or some sort of infectious disease around, right? Because then, you might get looked at, and you might get some bad press on that as well. Plus you want to keep everyone healthy. Equipment placement. So it should be grouped in sections such as stretching and warm-up, one area, agility another area, plyometrics another area, free weights, aerobic, and then resistance machines. This makes sense when you think about any gyms you go to. I want you to think about, have you ever been to a gym that's kind of a mess, that you're like, okay, there's 2 treadmills over there, then there's 3 treadmills across the room, and then there's kind of some turf over there, then there's weights, but then they're kind of mixed in with over here. It's very disorganized and it's hard to get to, and the flow of exercising doesn't go well, right? And people actually notice that, where they're like, okay, well, I want to use some free weights, but then I want to go right over to here, but nope, that's way across the way. And then if I want to do one exercise here, you got to kind of think of that, the flow and the exercise. What are they exercising? Is it mainly muscular strength? Are they using machines? Are they going to be using that? The aerobic area, you want to keep with ellipticals and treadmills and so forth all in one area for the most part. And it does seem a lot more organized, and people really do appreciate organization and the flow of the facility. So the free weights and the rack should be organized on the wall with walkways between the free weights and machines. This allows for improved flow through the weight room, preventing congestion and maximizing space for more use. I'm sure you've all been to gyms where everyone is on top of each other, and if it's not organized properly, it can kind of be a mess, kind of waiting for different squat racks and so forth. So make sure you have that all set. Cardiorespiratory machines should be in their own section, organized into groups, not have a treadmill, then elliptical, then a bike, and then a treadmill, then elliptical, and a bike. It kind of should be treadmills, elliptical machines, and then bikes, and so on. Barbells and dumbbells is another question that was on the CSCS exam. Barbells and dumbbells should have a minimum of 36 inches, right, which is 3 feet of space between them to allow for movement between racks without danger to lifters and spotters. So a minimum of 36 inches. So a minimum of 3 feet in between the barbells and those dumbbells, okay? Safety and function are top priorities, which makes sense. Traffic flow is heavily influenced by equipment placement. Most facilities have one big room, and walkways can be created to manipulate the arrangement of equipment. Okay, stretching area. This should have at least 49 square feet of open space that athletes can perform a dynamic warm-up. There should be enough room for multiple people that can use the area at the same time, right? There's nothing worse than a very, very small stretching area. I've been in gyms where it's very, very small, very, very cumbersome. People are you can't really get a good stretch in. And then some people are just like, oh, forget it, I'll just go start working out. So if they're not doing some sort of dynamic warm up, and you're not warming up properly, then that could possibly increase your risk of injury. And that's kind of just indirectly based off of there's not enough room for them to do a warm up. Okay, circuit training area, at least 24 inches and preferably 36 from apart to provide from the machine's aquatic walking space, right? So at least 2 to 3 feet. Any designated walkways in the circuit training area should be at least 4 and 7 feet wide to provide enough area to move freely, right? So we need a lot more space in this circuit training and agility area because people are going to be moving about freely. So you want to make sure that area has a lot more space. Free weights, the racks and the dumbbells should be lined up along the wall, enough room for at least 36 inches. Again, 3 feet between the ends of the racked bars. That's enough room for people to walk by and not get in the way of the lifters or the spotters. Kettlebells should be lined up under a dumbbell rack or in their own section. Since most movements of the kettlebell are dynamic and takes up lots of space, this area should be large. So wherever your kettlebells are, think about a kettlebell swing, right? You don't want to knock someone as they're walking by. If it's in a tight area, that's not going to be good. The weightlifting area, racks and platforms should have enough room between them so that someone were to fall, people nearby would not also get injured. So again, those platforms should have at least 3 to 4 feet of walk space between them. Minimum 36 inches. Just remember that. Minimum 3 feet. The weightlifting standards of racks should be bolted to the floor, ensure that they don't move when in use, right? So it's very important for those racks to be bolted to the floor to ensure that it does not move, especially when someone's putting on a lot of, very, very heavy weights. You need to be very careful. So those type of things need to be thought of. The aerobic area, cardiorespiratory machines should be their own section. They should be lined up and organized like treadmills, elliptical, stair machines, bikes, yada, yada, all grouped together, right? Not only does it show organization, but it kind of, keeps the flow. Someone wants to go running, someone wants to go do that. It just is much more organized, and it's also aesthetically more appealing as well versus having it kind of in a disorganized array. So here are your space requirements for aerobic. Space needed is at least 24 square feet. Stair steppers, at least 24 square feet. Skiers, at least 6 square feet. Rowers, 40 square feet. And then treadmills, 45 square feet. Okay, so these are just kind of general guidelines, and that would kind of all change depending on how many treadmills you have. If you have a lot more treadmills, then obviously that's going to change a little bit. Okay. So here's a weight room layout for a secondary school. So here's got a high school. So here's a good idea of a layout. So you guys can take a look at that. You have some Olympic platform along the left side of the wall. Then you have your dumbbell racks along that other side with the benches. Then you have more squat and power racks. And then you have, your stretching area, machine circuit training area, so forth. Right? And then let's go down to the next one. And then here's weight room layout for a university. So you see it's you need a lot more. So things are kind of a little bit tighter. However, they're still maintaining that 3 feet of space in between for the walkways and all those other good things. But here's kind of a general setup. So you can see the treadmills, bikes, stair climbing is down at the bottom, its own thing. Then you have the Olympic platforms and the power racks, its own area. the sleds, the leg curl machines, the chest press. So you got all the machines over there. And then you also have, you know, the different, your abdominal stretching areas kind of right in the middle of everything. So maintaining cleaning surfaces of equipment, checklist for cleaning floors, for large cracks, standing dirt or grime, the splintering, breaking on platforms, any bolts or screws that go into the floor, no glue is extruding from the floor, and then ensure that floor is sturdy, locked in place, right? Carpet for mold and mildew and tears and all that other stuff. So there's also a checklist for cleaning walls, dirt buildup, replace the mirrors if they're cracked, mirrors if they're smudges at least once a week, cleaning windows, dust windowsills, any shelving, you know, weekly. Mirrors should be at least, again, 20 inches off the ground. These are all kind of common sense stuff, but this is included in the facility design for the NSCA, which are kind of all the standards. Checklist for cleaning ceilings, ensure that lights work properly, check for dust, cobweb buildup. Sometimes you can see like flies that are built up in there. Nothing attached to the ceiling is loose. Replace ceiling tiles as soon as possible, and the ceiling should at least, again, remember, being that 12 to 14 feet high to ensure clearance for explosive and jumping type of activities. Okay, so that's an overview of an intro to the facility design. We'll head into legal issues and all of that other stuff for the next lecture, but that's a good overview of if you were going to design your own facility. You know, start at the beginning with, you know, your pre-design phase, you know, what is a needs analysis, what's a feasibility study. Make sure you look at all of that, and then we will head into the next phase of this section of the class. All right, thanks everyone, have a good day.